Origins of narcissists and empaths. So I recently got a question that was, why didn't I become a narcissist? So it's really common for empaths to ask, am I a narcissist? Um, but when you ask that question, why didn't I become a narcissist? Now you're going very deep into really asking, why do narcissists become narcissists? And for that matter, we might as well ask the question too, why does an empath become an empath? And so for that, I want to give you an illustration. If you picture yourself or any person being encountered by a wolf, maybe you're walking down the street, maybe you're somewhere near the forest, and a wolf comes out, and now you're square, face to face with them. They're only a few yards away from you. What do you do? Well, typically we're going to go into a trauma response, right? So some people may fight, which is for them going to be to yell and scream and try to make themselves big and try to scare off the wolf. They might grab rocks and start throwing them. They may grab a stick and start trying to swing it. And this is a way that they're trying to survive. It is not that they mean to be aggressive. It's actually that they're trying to survive. They want to scare this wolf away so that they feel safe, so that they won't be in danger. Other people in the same situation may go into flight, which is to run. Some people in the situation will go into freeze response. It's sort of like, if I just stand still, maybe he won't notice me, or he won't see me as a threat to him, and then he won't make me his lunch. And then some people will go into fawn response, which is particularly peculiar response. But the fawn response is basically, let me ingratiate myself to you. Let me make myself seem like I am good for your well-being. Let me make you win, and I'll be the loser. And by submitting myself in some sort of hierarchy, then I can survive this situation. So you can picture a person getting down on their knee and then maybe giving the wolf some of their food if they had some, or trying to appease the wolf in some way to seem like they are nice, like they are playful, like they are a friend. That is the fawn response. It is a trauma response in an effort to survive. Now I pose to you the question, why does one person choose to run and another person choose to fight? Why does one person choose to freeze and another person choose to fawn? Can you answer that question? Well, no, not very easily. And in the same way, we can't answer the question as to why some trauma survivors become narcissists, which is a dominant fight response to their trauma, and some become empaths, which is a dominant fawn response to their trauma. We just know that regardless, they come from trauma. Does that make sense? All narcissists, at some point in their development, whether it was in the embryonic stage or as an infant or in the toddler phase or as a child or as an adolescent, faced something traumatic. Typically, it wasn't one thing. A common cause of developmental trauma is emotional neglect, emotional abuse, or other types of abuse, such as sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect and abuse or abandonment. Those cause a trauma. And so a child has to try to figure out, how am I going to survive what is happening to me? How am I going to get my needs met? And so you may be someone who became that empath, that a trauma survivor, that CPT, that person who identifies with CPTSD or BPD, And you'll notice that in your same family, you have siblings that developed more like a narcissist. And so they have the traits of a narcissist. And so the question of where they come from is not a mystery. They come from the same place you came from: emotional neglect, emotional abandonment, emotional abuse. But why did you become the empath and they became the narcissist? Well, again, why do some people choose to fight and some people choose to fawn and some people choose to freeze? In some cases, it could be that the persons who chose to, let's say, fight might have learned somewhere that if you see a wolf, you should try to shoo it, right? I think I've heard that when you see a bear, you try to make yourself big. So it could be something that was learned. It could be that a person is just more spiritual. And so they thought maybe they were going to have a spiritual connection with this animal, and that's why they chose to fawn. We don't know. Could be that genetically you're the type of person who is physical in the way that you handle things, and you know that you're very fast and you can jump high. And so you tried running for your genetic predisposition. So we don't know why some people are choosing some things and others something else as a trauma response. Likewise, with the narcissists, when they encountered the same type of trauma, that lack of love in the household that you experienced, we don't know why they chose to go the route of becoming manipulative to get their needs met, why they chose to become liars and deceivers, why they felt that was their best option. It could be a genetic predisposition. Obviously, some people are born more sensitive or hypersensitive than others. So if you're born less sensitive, then we can see how that would predispose you to be less empathetic potentially. It doesn't mean all people who aren't sensitive are not empathetic or that they're narcissists. It just could be a predisposition genetically, right? And so that could be a part of it, genetic predisposition, aspects of our genes that we still don't understand. But maybe it's not fate. Maybe it is a choice, or maybe it's spiritual. We know that empathy is a more spiritual quality, not in that it means you have special powers, but it's more spiritual in that you are choosing to sacrifice the self and feel the pain of other people when you are an empathetic person. So being more spiritual could be part of the reason why you split in the direction that you split from your trauma. Or it could be environmental. It could be something a toddler saw on television, or that they learned from seeing their parents. Some of these children could have looked at the traits of the parent and said, I need to be more like that if I want to get my needs met. So again, it can be environmental, it can be genetic, it can be spiritual. We don't know exactly why a person splits the direction they split, but we do understand what the origin is for the empath and for the narcissist. It is trauma. So right here in the center of the chart would equal the balance, where we want to have a balance in order to be healed, is we want to have equal parts ego, equal parts empathy. The ego is your perception and prioritization of the self, your concept that you hold of yourself in your mind. And your empathy is the concept and the perception of others, how they're feeling, and the perception you're holding of them in your mind. So we need that equal parts ego, equal parts empathy in order to be healed and balanced. The narcissist dropped the empathy and just kept the ego. The empath dropped the ego and just kept the empathy. Both of them are going to have problems as a result. The narcissist's choice will mean that they experience less trauma going forward. They have chosen a response that is adaptive to the extent that they have their fight response, so they are self-protective. So they're less likely to be victimized. They became one with the darkness, one with the evil, and now they are going to be the abusers. They are going to be the users, the manipulators, the abandoners, and they are going to do so knowingly. So some ask, do they understand what they're doing? Well, probably at the toddler phase, no. But as they get older, they learn about morality and ethics like all the rest of us. They watch the same movies that the rest of us watch and go to the same churches and go to the same schools. They understand that, societally speaking, what they are doing is not ethical. They get that. They do not care. And they certainly don't care about how you feel. So are they aware that they're hurting you? Yes, they know they're hurting you. But again, by some predisposition, they were able to let go of the empathy. So they don't care. They can see an animal or a human suffering in front of them, and they can be eating an apple at the same time. Like, it's not for them a very dysregulating event, generally speaking, for a narcissist to see someone suffering. And especially when we're talking about emotional suffering, they pass that off as not even being real. Like, what are you talking about? You're not being abused. You're fine. Look at you. Because the hurt is on the inside. So the hurt just doesn't exist at all. They don't care that you're feeling hurt. So that just leaves them with their ego. With no empathy, they only have themselves to worry about. So they become the ego path. Whereas an empath becomes such because they've let go of themselves. They've said, hey, the way that I can survive in this household is if I stop prioritizing myself, I stop asking for anything, I stop wanting anything, I take the stance that I am the loser, I take the stance that I am inferior, I am less than, I am to blame. Many scapegoats become, or empaths become scapegoats, and vice versa. They figure, if I just accept that it's all my faults, then maybe I can just survive here, because I cannot fight against this enemy. I cannot defeat this enemy, or I cannot let go of my concern and care for other people. So again, what you have is a strong fight function with the ego path, the narcissist, and a strong flight function with the empath, right? Now, what about freeze and fawn? Well, the freeze and fawn are going to be, the freeze and flight. Yes. With the empath, you have strong fawn function. I think I might have misspoke. I'm sorry. So you have fawning with the empath, which is caring for everyone else, losing so that others can win. You have strong fight with the ego path. So then that leaves us with freeze and flight. So what about freeze and flight? What's happening? Well, an ego path or a narcissist can still have their freeze and flight functions. And this is where you get into the covert versus the overt narcissist. The freeze function is essentially, I'll survive better if I just blend in, like I'm not even here, if I just do nothing. So what narcissists try to blend in? That would be your covert narcissist, right? They figure by blending in, by being invisible, by acting like they're not a bad person and that they're really a good person, by just freezing, they camouflage themselves like chameleons, yes. And in extreme situations, they are the psychopaths, right? Which is just a further exacerbation of narcissistic traits and behavior to the point of being illegal and grossly immoral. That's what we tend to call a psychopath, but it's a covert narcissist. No need to differentiate greatly. It's just the scale. So a psychopath is on a higher scale than a covert narcissist. So now we have the strong fight function with a secondary freeze function. They are the fight freezers, your covert narcissists. Now, sometimes they can flip-flop, or sometimes they can stay as their counterparts, which is the overt narcissist. An overt narcissist is antagonistic, they're malignant, they're out there. So everyone really knows what they are, and they just are that way. An overt narcissist is like, this is the way I am, this is the way I act, whatever. I'm never going to change. and people just have to deal with it. So everyone knows that they are a narcissist, but some people aren't smart enough to fear it. And so they'll follow an overt narcissist. These are, in their exacerbated form, the sociopaths. And these sociopaths sometimes become the dictators and these leaders, these CEOs. They're cutthroat, and they're known for being cutthroat, and they want to be known for being cutthroat. That is what they are. They are sociopaths. They don't mind committing genocide, whatever they have to do to win, to be on top, to prove themselves as superior to everyone else. So hopefully this is making sense. Now, again, we have the strong fight function, and then with the overt, instead of the freezing and the hiding, we have the flight as a secondary. The concept of flight is I'm going to distance myself to stay safe. And think about what an overt narcissist is doing emotionally. Think about how they don't care that they stand out and that they're different. That doesn't stop them. It's the flight function. They remove themselves from everyone else, put themselves in a whole different position of mankind, and they become the social. That's why they don't mind being a dictator. They're very much separated from everyone else. That's because they have the flight function. They figure it's better for their survival to be separated from everyone else. Does that make sense? And so that's where you get your sociopath versus psychopath. Again, a sociopath, psychopath, they're overt, covert narcissists, but they're doing things that are so extreme because they're illegal or grossly immoral, and that's why they get that title of a psychopath or a sociopath. It's not deeper than that. But it goes the other way as well. So if you go back down the chart and you look at the empath who splits from their trauma, again, you're in the same household. You grew up with the same neglectful, abandoning parents. But as the empath, you're going to split to become more anxious or more avoidant. And there you can find your flight and freeze functions. If you're a freezer as an empath, then you're going to you're going to become a more codependent as a freezer. The concept of freeze is maybe if I blend in, they won't notice I'm here. And if they don't notice I'm here, then I'll survive. Doesn't that sound like the ideology of a codependent? It's I'm not here, just you're here. Let me attach myself to you, and then I'll be worth something. Let me become a part of you so that I will be a whole person. Your problems are my problems. Your needs and wants are everything. This is a secondary freeze function. So they're fawners that are also freezing. That is the anxious, disorganized, fearful, codependent trauma survivor, the empath. Did you catch that? So they're a fawn response with a secondary freeze response. I'm not even here. I don't exist at all. I need everyone else to be anything. They're going to depend on other people for other people's opinions, for what other people want. They are afraid of being abandoned. They have to constantly be with another person. Otherwise, they feel like they don't even exist. And they certainly don't feel like they know who they are because they don't have their ego. They dropped the ego already. When you have your strong fawn response with the flight response, I am safer when I'm away from people. There you have your there you have your avoidance. They're reclusive, they're dismissive. It's, I hate people. You might hear a lot of trauma survivors say that. I hate people. You know that? I just hate all people. And so their idea is if I just stay away from people, then I can't get hurt. So they become the hermits. They don't get into relationships. They stay away from relationships. If they are in a relationship, they're avoidant in the relationship. And so they constantly abandon their partner. They are the avoidance. And this can exacerbate to become avoidant personality disorder, where you are that hermit, you are that person who just tries to stay away from everything and everyone, and you avoid taking risks, and you avoid speaking, and you avoid moving forward, and it starts to negatively impact your life. That is, you're a fawner because when you are with people, you're going to end up being a fawner. And so you say, I can't handle this, so I'm just going to avoid people. And so you become avoidant. And sometimes you can flip flop between the two, and you can become more anxiously attached and more codependent. Just like that narcissist can flip between being covert and overt. But when you are the fawner that is a freezer, when that gets exacerbated, then you have a borderline personality disorder, which is just the empath, the trauma survivor, who has gone extreme in their thinking. Everything's either black or white. People are either good or bad, idealized or villains. And it's very difficult for them to break out of self-destruction because they are such fawners, such freezers. They don't exist. They don't care about themselves. They don't love themselves. And so they become suicidal and they want to destroy themselves. So they have destructive behaviors such as cutting, driving recklessly, reckless sex, reckless relationships, and so on. It's a lack of self-care, a lack of self-love, because there's a lack of self. So hopefully all this is making sense, giving you a little insight on what's going on. So a brief note on how do we get out of this, right? Because we don't just want to be focused on the problem. So Roman, yeah, I recognize myself on the chart. How do I get out of this thing? How do I break out of just being a fawner with an extreme flight or freeze or whatever it is? And can narcissists heal? Healing is balance. So when you can get the balance between I have a strong ego, I think I'm amazing, I love myself, I prioritize myself, and I have strong empathy. I really care about others. I really want to serve them. I really want to protect them. I really love them. They are amazing. Other people are amazing. Other people are special. I really care about them. I don't fear being around them. I want to be around them. It's the perfect balance of those two that is the healed state. When you get there, it's not like it's a state of permanence. Just like what you're experiencing right now isn't a state of permanence. You fluctuate from day to day, experience to experience. So you have to hold yourself balanced by developing the ability to have balanced thinking. I don't go to extremes. That's your mindset. I don't go to extremes, so I will not be avoidant because that's one extreme, and I'm not going to be codependent. That's another extreme. So when I recognize that a person is harmful potentially to me, or a person has hurt my feelings, I'm not going to avoid all people or this person, and I'm not going to become codependent with this person and fawn. I'm going to be balanced. What does that look like? Being balanced looks like being analytical instead of living in the emotions, the amygdala. Most things in life we don't need trauma responses for. If you encounter a wolf, it's actually appropriate to fight or flight or freeze or fawn, depending on what you believe is the best option. But the more analytical of a thinker you are, the better it's going to be, whether you're in an actual emergency or you're living daily life. Because the situations that are causing us to become dysregulated, it is not justified for us to be dysregulated. As adults, it is our job to analyze the situation in our cerebral cortex, to analyze everything. Oh, you want to break up? That is not a state of emergency. Sure, there may be abandonment involved, but this is not a survival like I'm in the wild with a wolf. So what I must do now is analyze. I don't want to be avoidant. I don't want to be codependent. So what's my balanced response to someone wants to break up? I'm very sorry to hear you feel that way. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to prevent that, because I wouldn't want to see us break up if it weren't completely necessary. However, your feelings are very important, and ultimately the relationship wouldn't work if you're not happy here. So you are free to do whatever it is that you please, even if that means that you're going to leave. And of course, that would hurt, but you are free to do so, and there would be no hard feelings. You see the balance, and how do we come up with that? By living in our conscious mind, by being analytical. We have to build that skill. We have to build that skill. So we need to see everyday situations not as life or death. I have to go into fight, flight, freeze. No. Oh, you're passing me up for promotion, or I'm losing my job. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to change that. Please do pass on my contacts to any of your colleagues. Please do keep the door open so that I'll have the door open for you. And you're handling it in a balanced manner. And as a result, you will live a life that is more abundant because you're not cutting off one option or cutting off the others in your extreme responses. So can you heal? Absolutely. Anyone who wants to heal can, and I'm here to help. I have a plethora of free resources on my website and on YouTube that are there designed to help you to heal. I even have some paid resources that are advanced that can help you to heal in a very targeted, specialized way. So I have my trauma recovery course, Adapt, that's available. There's Boundary School. So there's lots of different resources that are available now and that I'm working and cooking up for you guys so that you'll have all the resources needed to heal from trauma. And we are a one-stop shop here, by the way. So if you're new on these phone calls working with us, you don't have to listen to a bunch of different people. I got everything you need. And if there's any questions I haven't already addressed in a lesson, in a video, in a talk, then let me know directly and I'll address it. But if you come to our meetings and you're watching the videos, and you're doing your meditative work, and you're doing your exercising, you're going to heal. You're going to become a more balanced person. And balance is something that we continue to pursue. So even after you've healed from CPTSD, you have to continue to pursue balance. That's why I would advise that even the healed members that we have here continue to come to our Mindset Mondays, because we got to keep pursuing actualization. We want to be the best versions of ourselves. So can a narcissist heal? Yes, of course. Anyone who wants to heal can heal. Narcissists generally do not heal, though. And the reason is because narcissists don't want to heal. So please get out of your mind any concept you have of I'm going to heal my narcissistic mother or father or boyfriend. That's just going to keep you in an abusive relationship. Remember, they are dangerous, they are toxic, they are abusers. You're not going to heal them. I'm not going to heal them either. The only person that can help a narcissist to heal is the narcissist, first and foremost. They have to come to a conclusion that there is something wrong with them, which generally they don't come to, and that they need the help of others, which would mean they have to put themselves out of the position of being superior, which generally they won't do. So you have to let go of trying to help a narcissist to heal, and you have to focus on your healing. Because usually when you say, well, how can I help this narcissist to heal? You're just being codependent again. It's codependent thinking. You focus on what you control. You don't control whether another person heals, whether they're a narcissist or an empath or what. You can't control it. It's not your job. It's not your job. So if they want to heal, then they have the resources. If they want to apply what they learn in church or in the Bible or in their morals and ethics classes. If they want to be a good person, they can strive for that. They can do the difficult, excruciating work and go through the washing of their soul for all of their sinful behavior. If they want to do it, they can. They can. It's up to them. They are humans with free will, but generally they do not. So what's better than waiting around trying to worry about whether the narcissist is going to heal, which most do not, like out of 1,000, 999 do not. It's much better for you to focus on yourself, focus on healing yourself. And then you will be an agent of change for others. You'll be able to inspire others by your life. Because there are genetic factors involved, I do want to mention generational trauma, the concept that this is being passed down through your genes. What happened 15 generations ago is still in your genes. So if someone saw a saber-toothed tiger back in the caveman days, then today you still have trauma in your body because when they saw the saber-tooth, that thinking is not generally helpful or scientifically accurate. Epigenetic reprogramming happens naturally, meaning that when we are in the embryonic stage, the existing epigenetic marks of our previous parents are erased, which establishes a new pattern of gene expression, which basically is making cellular differentiation, which basically means there's new fresh cells being created, so that we're only getting from the parents what the markers that are needed to be born as a resemblance of them. But each child is actually born epigenetically a new human, fresh human. That fetus is not being implanted with everything from their parents, just what they need to be put together and started off as that new human. But now the new cells are being created, and new cells are being created through the lifetime of that child. And so when you were born as a fresh human. Of course, the past generation's trauma is going to have an effect on you. Of course, that's obvious. But worrying too much about what gender you were born as, or what race you were born as, or what country you were born in, or what social class you were born in, is focusing on the infinite void of what you cannot control and what you do not have. Focus instead on what you can control. Of course, we have to take stock if we are at a disadvantage in certain ways, but focus on what you can do, so that if you're born without legs, you focus on what you can do with your arms. And it is through that way of thinking that we are adaptive, and we will experience more success in life, more happiness, more fulfillment, more connectedness, more freedom. And we can be more balanced, which is to be healed.